I will be forever the myth.
You're the king of kings, son.
There's always a pecking order. The little packers never mess with the big packers. So I'm a rooster, and he's a chicken, so to speak.
Did you ever see Sergio win any of those shows at the Brooklyn Academy?
Oh, I wasn't at any.
Okay.
Let me think. He first won in 68, was it? Or 67? I don't remember why I wasn't there in 67, but by 68, when he won, I was already in California.
Oh, okay. That's right. Yeah.
In fact, I told you the story of the Ironman came out about 2 months or 3 months after he won, and they had a feature on Sergio winning the Olympia, and I was in the gym with Arnold, who had just arrived in the United States.
Yeah.
And remember the picture of Sergio on the top of the article was his arms out like this,
Yeah.
Remember the giant lats, and I showed it to Arnold, and Arnold said, remember I told this story. He says, unbelievable, fantastic, and I'll never. What he said to me was kind of amazing. He says, nobody could ever beat this guy. What he said. Arnold said that. I should remind you that next time I see him.
Right.
Because was it like a year later or a year or two later he was competing?
A couple years later, right? Yeah.
He was in awe of Sergio.
Yeah. Sergio had to be something to see back then with, his proportions and everything. There was nobody like him.
Oh, he was still probably easily one of the most genetically gifted bodybuilders of all time.
Right.
When you think about, I talked to his son, Sergio, about that. The man never did anything right.
Yeah.
He used to drink like dozen bottles of Coca-Cola, and he ate every one. He had this little tiny waist. And even his training was wrong. He did his poor form in his movements, overtrained. And yet look at him. Could you imagine? Plus, of course, there's the drug factor. I'm sure that Sergio took steroids and drugs, but nothing like that. It scares me of what this guy would have looked like if he trained properly, followed a good nutrition program, and took the drugs that the guys today are. I think if he was still young and came back somehow today, he would destroy every one of these guys. Just because it would be a difference. It would be a guy who looked not unhuman. He wouldn't even look like a human to be so human.
I know.
Just imagine Sergio with a ripped, defined physique.
Right.
Scary.
That structure and that small waist.
Oh, unbelievable. His legs would be bigger. Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Scary to think about. Yeah.
When you think about how it was in the 60s, you're right. They didn't really know how to diet. They didn't know much about nutrition. They didn't know how to train, No,
it was all flying blind. They didn't really know. Like I say, it was an era of overtraining and, it's amazing that the guys looked as good as he did.
Yeah.
They did things that were really wrong, but it just goes to show you the powerful effect of genetics.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
By doing things that were terrible as far as nutrition and exercise.
And hard work. He did work hard.
Yeah, you can't.
Very hard worker. Yeah.
You can't take it away. The guys years ago in that 67, they worked their asses off, John.
Yeah.
No cell phones. There was no screwing around. In between shows in the off season, they would kibitz a little bit in the gym and joke around and maybe, train a little bit less intensely. But let me tell you, 3-4 months before a show, these guys were all business.
Yeah.
They were focused. It was a whole. I don't see any of that today. I'm sure that exists, but I don't see many competitive bodybuilders at all. But back then it was very, very serious.
Sergio had a full-time job. He was he worked in a factory, and I think he was a butcher, right?
Yeah.
He worked all day, and then they'd go into the gym, and there was no air conditioning back then, so he trained in the Duncan YMCA in the basement. It had to be super hot in there,
Yeah. Here's a guy. I remember reading where he said he put in sometimes 9-10 hour days.
Yeah, and then go right to the gym for 3 hours.
What the drive there is incredible when you think about it.
Yeah.
When I first met him, I think it might have been that 66 show. I went backstage because he was getting a lot of publicity. Remember, he had come from Cuba as an Olympic, defected from Cuba. He was an Olympic lifter, and he had competed in the AU, and he was pretty well. He was getting a lot of play in the magazines. So I went backstage. You know the story. Tried to get his autograph. But the reason I'm mentioning this again, because he was wearing his butcher's robe.
Right, he used to do that to pump up, right?
Yeah, and it had blood all over it. It looked, I mean, it looked like he just.
Yeah.
And when he told me to get the fuck out of my face,
Yeah.
I looked at the robe with the blood all over it, and I looked at his face had like scars on it when you see him up close.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm not going to mess with this guy.
You're going to be another victim.
Yeah, even though I was like a Brooklyn tough guy, whatever you want to call it, my first impulse would say, well, fuck you too. But I wasn't about to say that with this guy. Not with this
And just for the people who weren't around back then, if we go back over the list of competitors, this is why they would always hold the Olympia with the Mr. America, the Mr. World, the Mr. Universe, because the Olympia was, when it just started, they only had 3 guys in the first one. Right. They had 4 guys in the second one. I think they had 4 guys in the third one. When Sergio won the second time in '68, he had nobody. Nobody would go up against him.
Yeah. Now
and then '69, I think there was 3 guys. 3 guys.
Yeah. I mean, you think about though, that's a testimony to the awe that Sergio inspired.
Right.
69 that he competed alone, was that 69?
68. The second one.
Yeah. The fact that you had to remember, you had a lot of great bodybuilders at that. Chuck Sipes was still on.
Well, Chuck Sipes, I think, was there. I think he won the Mr. World that year.
Okay. Yeah.
So he was there. He could have did it.
Yeah, I mean, you could have had several top bodybuilders.
I think Dave Draper was there too. I think he could have did it.
Right. Several. I'm sure there was several top caliber bodybuilders.
Yeah.
That could have gone. I mean, they would have been welcome to compete the Olympia.
Right.
But they looked at Sergio. They wanted no part of it. I mean, he was like literally considered indomitable. You forget it. Nobody's going to beat this guy. So why bother?
Right.
I mean, Arnold didn't even want to compete again. Nobody.
Yeah.
I mean, has that ever happened? I mean, think didn't Arnold compete once by himself?
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. Yeah. And if you look at the pictures of Sergio back then too, I think, I think he just kept getting bigger throughout his career. When he started, probably when you saw him in '66, he wasn't nearly as big as he got.
No. He was actually relatively. In fact, I remember now. I think about it, standing relaxed on the side of the stage of that '66. He was no big. I mean, Chuck Sipes looked actually bigger than him.
Yeah,
I'm not saying Chuck Sipes was small, but Sergio looked standing relaxed. I mean, he looked great. Don't think he's had the small waist and the great legs, all that.
Yeah,
but he looked nothing like he did later on. He was a quarter of the size he was later on.
Yeah, I saw a picture of him and Draper on stage at the same time, and Draper looked bigger too.
Draper did look bigger for sure. Yeah. He definitely gained a lot of size.
But I think when that period when he was winning, those 3 years when he was winning, he started putting on size, but he still had the cuts. He still had the muscularity. Right. And I think that had to be his best. That's when he beat Arnold in '69 when he had the size, but he wasn't smooth. He was still cut.
Yeah, I still think, and I think we talked about this also. I think he reached his peak at, was it the '73 one in Essen, Germany? Was that '73?
72.
72. That's, to me, was the best Sergio that ever appeared on his.
I agree. Yeah.
And, again, I hate to talk about a contest that I wasn't at, but judging by the many photos I've seen and the eyewitness accounts of people that did compete, other than Franco, all of, like Frank saying, all the other guys told me that Sergio was a clear winner that night.
Yeah.
It's a shame. He should have won that Mr. Olympia.
But, it would have been more exciting if he would have too.
It would have. You're right.